The Commanders traded for Debo Samuel, and what he went for was a fifth round pick. Adam Peters, having that connection with Debo back in San Francisco, made that move to bring him back. He's familiar with him. And Debo Samuel, I think, is number one, a perfect fit for the Commanders offense. I think everybody's kind of overreacting to how washed he is. I think that a lot of his struggles were due to him not being able to beat man coverage, but the Commanders don't face a lot of man because they have a scrambling quarterback. When you play man, you turn your back to the quarterback. It's a lot of zone. Debo is still one of the best receivers against zone, and he's one of the best receivers at catching screens. And the Commanders run a lot of screens. Now those screens aren't going to Noah Brown and Diami Brown. They're going to Debo Samuel, who can make something happen in space. So I think from a scheme perspective, it's the perfect fit. A fifth round pick with the fact that he is making $22 million. Not the best, but it's only a 1-year deal. So it's kind of like a prove it year for Debo. For San Fran, this makes no sense because you only get a fifth round pick, but they're taking over $30 million in dead money by trading Deebo. And now we saw reports that they want to trade Brandon Ayuk as well. They're open to trading him. They are seeing right now, we're seeing firsthand, when you want to pay a quarterback, these are the type of cost-cutting moves that you have to make. And Deebo, his down year, 680 yards. He had like over 400 yards of yak. He didn't have the best season. He's far from his all-pro Pro Bowl self. But I feel like a lot of times it was Brock Purdy also letting him down and not giving him great balls. I really did. And now Brock Purdy next year is going to be in a situation where you have one weapon subtracted from that group. And whatever people want to say about Debo, I don't think he's completely washed anymore. I don't. And with the Commanders now having him, they run a lot of pony personnel, which is 2 running back sets. He can be one of those running backs in the backfield. They can use him in different ways. I just think it gives him another chess piece and somebody that adds a different skill set to the offense. And I actually like this move over a move that I projected them to make, which was getting Cooper Kupp. I think them adding Deebo is much better than them adding Cooper Kupp just because of how he fits their scheme.
Yeah, this is a great move. I thought my mic was muted again. This is a great move. Adam Peters is showing to be one of the better GMs in football as well, right? This is somebody who came over from San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, his first draft hit it out of the park. You know, Jaden Daniels looks like a franchise quarterback. Looks like he hit out of the park with Dan Quinn. And then Cliff Kingsbury, too, who, you know, is probably in collaboration with Dan Quinn, who he wants for his coaching staff. But Deebo Samuel for a fifth round pick, there's almost no downside to it. It's all reward, right? Because a fifth round pick, someone who's day 3, I really don't know why the NFL has high value on day 2 or day 3 picks. I get it for teams that are rebuilding, right? Where you just want to acquire a lot of young, cheap talent. That makes sense. But anyone that's a contender, I'm willing to give up basically any draft pick for if I know you can contribute, right? Deebo Samuel, it's a bit different because you mentioned he's making $22 million a year. For if someone was on the open market coming off this past season, isn't getting 22 million. He does have an injury history, and he really doesn't have multiple years of elite production. It's really that 1 year that stands out where Deebo looked like a solidified top 10 receiver in football. But still, he comes to your team and is immediately, without question, the second best weapon you have on offense, right? The fact that the Commanders were able to put together a top 10 offense, at times top 5 offense throughout all of last season, including some of the biggest games of the year in the playoffs against Detroit, against Tampa Bay, and then, of course, against the Eagles, where you got blown out, but it wasn't because you weren't able to move the ball. It's because you had some really costly turnovers. So getting Deebo Samuel on this team is huge. The cost for it is huge, or excuse me, the cost for it's a great value. You got to think, before the season started, you moved off Jahan Dotson for a third-round pick, right? You traded him to Philly. I think you did give up a 4th or 5th to attach to him, but you still had that extra pick, which you traded for Lattimore. So Adam Peters is showing I could hit on these draft picks. I could hit on guys that are franchise setters. But once we have a team that is good enough, I will make a move at the deadline. I will make a move, you know, in the trade market in the offseason, and we'll see what he does in free agency. But he's not just going to stand pat and see how guys progress. No, this is a team with a rookie quarterback on a rookie quarterback contract. It's time to get aggressive. Go and get valued or maybe undervalued veterans who could help you as soon as next season.
And I understand that we talk about that all-pro year with Deebo Samuel, where he had went for over 1,400. He was incredible. But we can't forget the year that they went to the Super Bowl, albeit that he did miss a little bit of time in that season. he was pretty great for the San Francisco 49ers. Whenever he was on that field, he was an impact player, whether it was catching passes, whether it was coming out of the backfield. We understand how dynamic he is. And you add another element to this Washington Commanders offense for a 5th-round pick. To me, it was an absolute no-brainer. Now you pair him alongside Terry McLaurin. You have 2 wide receivers that you can really, really make some explosive plays with on this offense. And like Joel mentioned, this isn't a team that you can run man coverage against. And that's a huge idea where with Jaden Daniels running outside of the pocket, extending plays, you have him with his legs, but now you have to worry about Deebo Samuel. Now, of course, understanding that if you're going to keep Terry McLaurin at that X spot, you have another wide receiver that you can go out there and draw up so many different types of interesting, just gimmicky concepts that you can go out there and have positive plays with. For San Francisco, it's interesting because, man, are we just going all in on a rebuild? Understanding that your offense is kind of aging to a certain degree. Deebo is getting up there. Of course, George Kittle is over 30 years old. Brandon Ayuk is just entering his prime, if you want to say. I understand he did just tear his ACL, but you just paid him an insane contract. We're moving off for him after 1 season. CMC obviously just did miss a majority of last season. This offense, you're going to have to pay Brock Purdy a good contract if you want to keep him as your franchise quarterback. It's just, I'm unsure with the direction of the San Francisco 49ers. I love this for the Commanders for obvious reason. Like you mentioned, Joel, it's perfectly said. Low risk, high reward. Deebo Samuel, if he's not great, all right, so be it. We still have our quarterback on a rookie contract. This is 1 year remaining. We can go out there and pivot really quick. But at the same time, you know what Deebo can be if he is healthy on the football field. And that's an explosive player now added to an already explosive offense. So it's going to be fun for the Commanders, but for the Niners, I really don't know what we're doing.
Washington is kickstarting what I think is going to be a tremendous offseason. This is the first real domino that has fallen this offseason when it comes to a trade. And I think Adam Peters is going to be even more aggressive. The 49ers plan of action might just be to go cheap at receiver because they paid Deebo. I think they regret it. They paid Ayuk. I think before he got hurt, they were starting to regret it just because he wasn't playing to that level, even though it was going to take him some time to get acquainted. They have Jawan Jennings, who played really well last year, Ricky Pearsall, who was a first-round pick. I think they're probably telling themselves, okay, we could trade these receivers, and we can just build through the draft with this position, and we don't have to pay them top market value, which is always difficult because now you are rotating receivers, and that chemistry is going to be all over the place. But with the amount of receiving talent, you can see maybe the way that they're pivoting, but this is an older offense. I wanted to go through the history of the 5th-round picks they've had. So since 2015, which is when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan took over pretty much, George Kittle, Trent Taylor, DJ Reed, Dre Greenlaw, Colton McKivitz, Lenore, Jalen Moore, Talanoa Hufanga, Samuel Womack, Robert Beal, Darrell Luter, Jacob Cowing. As of recently, the 5th-round picks haven't been that good, but historically they have pretty much hit on these picks.
They have some all pros in early years. Yeah, I mean, I think the Niners, it's an interesting move. The Ayuk news is a little shocking because first of all, we'll see if he gets moved. But if he does get moved, I just don't know why you'd move Ayuk off of Ayuk now after you've paid him and he's coming off a torn ACL. This feels like the lowest value Ayuk is going to have, right? You let him rehab from this injury, come back next season. Maybe he's not 100%, but you hope towards the second half of the year he can show you some sort of level that he used to be, right? A couple of seasons ago where he was playing at all-pro level. But I personally wouldn't be making the move of let's trade all of the weapons, trot out Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings is my wide receiver 1 and 2. CMC is coming off a lost year. Who knows what he looks like? George Kittle is really the only reliable option we have on offense. But that's also why you have Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator. So you can make these changes on offense. You can cut spending in some places and know that if people are healthy, especially at quarterback, you can still probably trot out a borderline top 10 offense, even with weapons that are underwhelming. But I don't understand moving off Ayuk. Deebo, I get just because of the contract, especially the comments he had during the season too, right? Where he's like, oh, I'm just not getting the ball. And then I would just think back to the game. Was it against the Rams?
He dropped it.
On 3rd down, he dropped a wide open slant pass. And I feel like there was just a lot of nonsense going on last year. That wasn't football. So that probably had something to play in it too.